So we were thinking there's probably some insurance scam going on. And they had to have like an armed, well, I don't think he was armed. They had to have a guard 24 hours a day in front of Chili's to make sure that no one went in and like mucked with the evidence. Because someone's suspecting foul play. Not murder, but like, shenanigans. And shenanigans happen. No one thinks shenanigans happen. Put a guard in front, investigate, and, oh, hi! I didn't see you come up there. And welcome to John Explains. Now, you're probably wondering, where's Keith? Doesn't he usually do Keith Explains? So to this, I have two things to say. Number one, I doubt you're wondering where Keith is. It's not like anyone actually tunes in to this station at 8 p.m. Thursday, whatever, expecting to see Keith.
Wait. I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
oh.
So, sorry, folks. The movie was really long. And so it I don't know with movies. I look at the movie schedule and it says 1 hour and 49 minutes. So I mentally subtract 1 hour and 50 minutes. I gave myself, a bonus minute to get out of the theater. I subtract that from 8 o'clock when we start taping, and then I go, well, it's 10 minutes to get to the studio from the theater because it was over at Mountain View. So I subtract that back, and I go, well, the movie starts at 5:25. Plenty of time for me to get from the movie theater to the taping on time to do the old Keith Explains show. But what I forgot was movie theaters don't start movies at the times they claim to start the movies. They start them like 20 minutes later. So they can fill that 20 minutes with freaking ads trying to get me to go see more movies, which I think is really, really dumb. Because the person you want to advertise movies to aren't people in movie theaters. People in movie theaters already go to see movies. You want to advertise movies to people that don't go to see movies so you can get more people seeing movies. And I don't know what to... So I was seeing the DaVinci Code. Now, DaVinci Code, it's a movie. It came out based on a book. But you probably heard about it because it's been the subject of a lot of controversy. And since the movie's been subject of a lot of controversy, everyone and their dog is going to see it and talk about it, which makes the controversy, since the people that are making it controversial don't want you to see the movie, like the dumbest thing in the world. Like, people don't want you to go see this movie because, like, whoa, it says Christ was married and had kids, and that would be bad. I don't know why. They don't explain that part of the controversy. Maybe I missed it in catechism because I really had a spotty record at catechism. I suspect at the end of catechism I was one of those, well, let's just pass him to get him out of here kinds of things. I mean, I probably went like 2 nights out of 4 or 3 nights out of 4, and I'd ask embarrassing questions in catechism. I don't remember them because I don't remember much of catechism. But as I recall, my catechism teachers were... I'm sure when you're a catechism teacher, you're kind of sitting there and you're thinking, well, I think I can save half this class. Keith ain't in that half. Maybe if I teach really well, I can save 3/4 of this class. And Keith ain't in that 3/4 is my main point. So I think they had pretty much given up on me, which is wacky because my parents were like, my parents religion-wise, when I was young, we went to church every Sunday. And then after my brother graduated catechism, we never went again. Because I think their theory was, all we got to do is get him through 18. After that, he's on his own. So, like, when I was young, my mother ran the Sunday school, and I don't think she's been in like 20 years. Probably 22 years, since I think that's how long ago my brother left home. They probably... I'm sure they still send in money every year for the Christmas thing and stuff, but they probably have no idea what the colors of the walls inside the place are anymore. Or it could have moved, for all they know, really. It hasn't, because I've driven by it. It's still in the same place. And from the outside, it looks remarkably the same, although they put an addition on sometime in the last 22 years. I don't know when, because I didn't go anymore. I'm totally off topic here. What I meant to talk about was the DaVinci Code. It's this movie. It's got Tom Hanks in it. And any movie with Tom Hanks is a movie worth seeing unless it's that one movie he did that's ungodly bad, whose name I've forgotten. But it was based on the Tom Wolfe book. It'll come to me later, and then I'll go, and I'll yell the name of the movie. Or better yet, the guy that edits the show will float it under me, and then he'll mock me. He'll be like, dummy. Something like that, where he will intentionally make light of my inability to remember every darn thing in the world. So anyway, it's a Tom Hanks movie. I go see the Tom Hanks movie, and it's a long movie, like I mentioned, 149 minutes or so. That probably included the credits. I didn't watch the credits because I was late getting here because okay, so the movie starts. Tom Hanks is Robert Langdon. Robert Langdon, he's a religious symbologist at Harvard. I didn't even know they had religious symbologists, even at Harvard. I mean, as I recall in high school when I went to the career counselor, they explained there were a number of jobs I could get in the armed forces, and I could be a doctor, and they told me I probably couldn't be president. I should just give up on that one for a number of reasons. But primarily that I just wasn't, I was not cut out to be president, which in retrospect, I think I could have been president. I think if I had dedicated myself to doing nothing for the last 20 years, I would be perfectly qualified to be president right now. But he's a religious symbologist, blah, blah, blah. He's in Harvard giving a speech, and they show a bit of the speech in the movie, and man, is it a boring speech. So I know why you don't have religious symbologists that you hear about, because it's got to be the most boring profession in the world, based on what he's talking about. He's like, and here we see that. So some dude gets killed in Paris, and the Paris police come to this guy's book signing. They're like, we need your help. And like, the police have never come to any of my book signings and said, we need your help. Police have come to my book signings and said, you're trespassing, Mr. Statenfield. The bookstore has asked you to leave many times. And I'd be like, I'm signing books. And they'd be like, but they're not your books, Mr. Statenfield. And then they escort me out, and then they tell me if I get within 75 feet of the store, I can be arrested. But it's all very embarrassing, so I don't go into it much. But so the police come, and then they take him to this murder scene, and there's a guy gruesomely laid on the floor inside the Louvre. I don't know what it is with the French. They've named their museum after a window covering, I think, is what Louvres are. I don't recall, but it's that museum in France that has the Mona Lisa, which I guess we call the Mona Lisa. They call it something else. I don't remember what. But it's the painting of the woman that some people are like, you can't tell if she's smiling or not. And I'm like, well, you can't tell if a lot of people are smiling. I mean, what's so special about a painting you can't tell if a woman's smiling or not? But it's very famous, and it's behind glass, and there's a guy killed in front of it, and he's naked. Now, they don't dwell on the fact that he's naked. I think they're just like, you got a naked guy in the Louvre in front of the Mona Lisa. That screams comedy, really. And they're like, what do you think this means, Mr. Langdon? And he's like, how the frick do I know what this means? It's a naked guy on the floor of the Louvre. You're the policeman. They're like, no, the symbols. And he's like, what symbols? And they're like, they got a little light, and they shine this UV light on the floor, and there's a secret message written there, and he's drawn a pentagram on his chest in his own blood, and then he drew a circle around him in his own blood. Like, this guy was dying for a long time. And you saw him get killed. He's running through the museum, and there's this albino monk guy chasing him, and he runs into a hall, and he pulls a painting off the wall, and that makes a bar slide down so that, he's locked on one side, and the crazy monk's locked on the other side. So the crazy monk shoots him through the bar. And now immediately what I think is, they're bars with gaps like this big, like jail bars. If you had a museum filled with famous paintings, and you had a security system where barred doors dropped, why wouldn't the criminals just push the paintings through the bars, thereby totally getting around your high security system? This is the kind of stuff that occurs to me when I'm in movies. It's really very scary to be inside my head sometimes. Anyway, so there's a dead guy on the floor, and what Mr. Langdon doesn't realize is that the police think he's the guy that killed him, because Robert Langdon was supposed to have a meeting with this guy earlier in the day. They kind of knew each other by email. They're both famous. One went to Harvard. The other is curator of the Louvre. And then this woman comes in, nice, short, attractive woman, and gives him a secret message to Henry Langdon. It's like, you've got to escape, blah, blah, blah. Subterfuge ensues. She helps him evade the Parisian police who've planted a GPS tracking bug on him. It's the most amazing GPS tracking bug because it works in the Louvre, which is indoors, where GPS doesn't work because you can't see the GPS satellites indoors. The thing this tells you is authors need scientific consultants to explain where they're being dumb. I've said this before. If you have a movie script, send it to me. I will read through the movie script. I will go, page 7, never happened that way. Apparently the Star Trek guys, Next Generation, they figured it out. They'd tell the writers, you write the plot, but anytime you want anything scientific, you don't write it. You just type tech, 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 just over and over. And then we will send your script to the guys who write the technical crap. And they will put in stuff that sounds scientific-y. And that way you writers won't have to worry your pretty little heads about antiprotons and crap like that. Okay, so Sophia, this woman, helps Langdon evade the police, and they find some more secret clues in the Louvre. You know, they decrypt some anagrams, and man, this guy can decrypt anagrams in his head faster than anyone I know. Like I get those little word jumbles in the paper, like the ones designed for 4th graders with like the picture of the hippo and like the, 6 little clues and one of them circled, and I'll like fill them out in pen, and then I'll like stare at, and there's 6 letters. And I'm staring at like these words in the hippo, trying to think, what word could go here? And then after a couple minutes, I'll get it. But this guy is like doing like 15-letter anagrams in his head, like, and you can visually see him floating around on the screen. And they're like, a dragon despair. That's Leonardo da Vinci. And you're like, wow, man, is your brain fast? Which, again, Harvard symbologist. I mean, every Harvard symbologist I know is freaky smart, is all I'm saying. So they decrypt the secret messages, and they go to one painting, and that sends them to another painting. And the scary thing is, there are all these secret clues that, tell them to go from one painting to the other. But of course, since the guy had been shot, there are also blood trails leading to the paintings. Okay? Just give this a little thought. To me, it seems the police would have been, well, he's surrounded by blood, but where else is there blood? Maybe based on that, we could tell how far. I got to hurry it up here because, man, this was a long movie. Did I mention it was a long movie? I kept thinking that in the theater. I kept thinking, man, this is a long movie. Okay, so they find a key from the second of these, and the key sends them to a safe deposit box company in Paris, and it's like 1 a.m. at this time, and they get there, and they put the key in a little slot, and the doors open up, and they're like, there's a guard. They're like, how may I help you? And he's like, man, okay, I can get to my safety deposit box between 9 a.m. and 4:30, Monday to Friday. I cannot get to my safety deposit box at 1 a.m. on a Saturday. It is not in the contract. I do not have can get to your safety deposit box any way you want. Now, I pay $50 a year for my safety deposit box or something like that. I don't remember. It might be $35 a year, come to think of it. No, but it's 50. It's 50. I remember. Anyway, so they get him into the safety deposit box. They take him into a room. They're like, now you put your key in this machine, and then you type your 10-digit account number in there. And then you push the button, and it will mechanically bring you your safety deposit box. And they're like, what if we forgot the account number? They're like, well, you're out of luck. I'm like, well, that's dumb. Like, how do they send you the bills? Like, when they send you the bill for your safety deposit box, and then you send the check back, they're like, account number 7, you owe us $1,500. And you're like, okay. And then on the memo line, you'd have to write account number 7. But the bank doesn't, see, they're playing like the bank doesn't know your account number. That was just the bank being difficult. Like, I don't want to help you. It's 1 a.m. You're on your own, okay? You figure out how to get it up. But they figured out the account number because it's a Fibonacci number sequence. It's this math thing, which the guy that does the stuff under me will explain what Fibonacci numbers are. Okay, so they get the little magic. There's a robot, whoosh, whoosh, and it drops the box off for them, and they open it up. It's got a little cryptics, they call it. It's letters in things, and he's like, oh, I've heard of these. There's a piece of parchment inside here, and it's surrounded by a vial with vinegar. And so if you don't type the right combo, if you try and break it open, the vinegar will be pierced, and that'll destroy the parchment. It's Leonardo da Vinci invented this. It's how you send secret messages. And I'm like, that's great in DaVinci's time, okay? But we have X-rays. You know, these days you got one of these things, you just X-ray it, and you'd go, yeah, there's the combo. Okay, we can see inside where the gears go. Yeah, you pull it open. Okay, so DaVinci didn't think of everything. I bet he didn't think of the X-ray. Is all I'm saying. Okay, so the Parisian police have been following him, and now they're outside the safety deposit box bank building, whatever. And then like the night manager comes in and goes, "Come with me. I thought you'd have more time before the police got here." And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, yes, your safety deposit box fee includes safe passage." And I'm like, man, do they have a great safety deposit box program? Because again, my safety deposit box program is 9 a.m. till 4:30 Monday to Friday, and I can go into a little room and it's like this big. And okay, so he helps him escape in a bank, in one of the big armored trucks, and he drives him halfway across the country, and then the bank manager gets him out into the middle of nowhere, and then he like runs around and opens the back of the door and with a gun, and he's like, "Okay, now give me what's in the thing." And they're like, "What?" Because like he's double crossed him. Because this whole movie is just people double crossing each other. It's like fiendishly complicated if you actually think about it, and if you don't think about it, it's still fiendishly complicated, but you don't understand. So he's got a gun, and then and they close the door, and they bang him with the door. So they get the bank manager down on the ground, and they steal the armored truck, leaving the bank manager on the ground with a bump on the side of his head. And then they're like, "What do we do?" He's like, and Langdon's like, "Wait, I have a friend in France who knows everything about the Priory of Sion." And they, Priory of Sion, blah, 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 Knights Templar, Holy Grail, Protectors, etc. That's what they figured out so far. So they drive the armored truck from where they are to the home of the friend who knows everything about the Priory of Sion and the Holy Grail and everything else. And they pull up to the front gate, and they do this weird code to get in, and he lets them in, and it's like 2 a.m. So now the friend comes down the stairs. Now what I immediately think is, wow, it's Magneto. Because it's Ian McKellen who's playing the old friend. And Ian McKellen plays Magneto in the X-Men. And he also played Gandalf the Great, but he's kind of scruffy, so he doesn't look much like Gandalf. But what he looks like is if Magneto really let himself go. So the whole next hour of the movie, I keep thinking, man, did Magneto let himself go? I mean, it's freaky. I'm like, he can float metal things with his brain, and he's hobbling around on crutches. It didn't make... Okay, so then they're there, and then here's the point where they have to explain everything in the movie, kind of, oh, the Holy Grail means this, and it turns out Christ was married to Mary Magdalene, and she wasn't a prostitute, and she was pregnant when he was crucified, which I think has got to be really hard to explain to your 3-year-old. Why don't I have a daddy? Oh, the Romans nailed him to a cross. There had to be some tough times around the old family dinner table back like 36 AD in France, which apparently is where Mary Magdalene, pregnant with Jesus' unborn child at the time of the crucifixion, fled to get away from the evil men in the church, all. So then like, no more exposition, blah, 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 the early church. Patriarchy decided to suppress all the information about Mary Magdalene, the sacred feminine, and blah, blah. I remember when I was reading the book, and I read the book too. I mean, people say, Keith, you don't prepare for this show. No, I do. No, actually, I don't. But I lie and say I did. I did read the book. I mean, as I recall, it was a very fast book. And after I was done reading the book, I didn't remember much of it, except it happened in Paris. And there was a girl in it, and a guy, and a lot of stuff about the Holy Grail. And then I went and saw the movie, and it all came flooding back. And now it's been like, half an hour, and most of it's gone. So don't, for God's sakes, if you want to remember this movie, take notes, is my main point, I guess. Okay, so they're in Magneto's house. And then this crazy monk who killed what's-his-name breaks in and tries to kill him, and then they escape, and then they get in Magneto's plane, because of course he's got a plane, he's Magneto, for God's sakes. And then they're going to fly to Switzerland, but in the air on the way to Switzerland, they figured out a little bit of the code, so they're like, oh, it's not Switzerland, it's England. So they turn the plane, they go to England, and then They land in England, and the police are there to meet him because they figured out that they changed courses, and there's some subterfuge where they sneak him off the plane, and then they get into London, and they go to the place where they think that things are, and they're not there. And then they're like, oh, wait, the code means this. That's actually here. And then Ian McKellen, as it turns out, double-crosses Tom Hanks, because that's what Magneto does. He's evil, and he double-crosses people. I mean, have they no appreciation for the X-Men at all? I mean, he's smart, but evil. So he double-crosses them, and as it turns out, Magneto has been, working with this fiendishly weird albino monk the whole time, and this cardinal in the church, and it's too complicated to explain. Go see the movie. I mean, it's worth seeing. If you have roughly 2 hours and 45 minutes, not 2 hours and 25 minutes like you think, free. Like, for God's sakes, don't go to a 5:25 showing if you have to be somewhere at 8. All I'm saying is you're going to be a little late. Take it from me. So they're in England, and Ian McKellen double crosses them, and then they get away, Tom Hanks and the chick, and then they figure out where it's going to be, and then they've kept the thing, and then Ian McKellen is there, and then they realize, they don't know he's double crossed them yet. We know he's double crossed them because we see him kill a guy, which is, I think, if you're going to double cross someone, the best thing to do at the end is kill them. Because if you don't kill them, they're just going to be angry at you forever, and then they're going to double cross you. I mean, pretty much it's like the way to get the last word in an argument is to kill the guy you're arguing with. Just after you've finished saying something. Don't let him start talking and then kill him, because then he has gotten the last word. I mean, true, you've killed him, so you're not going to be argued anymore, but you won't have the last word, and it's critically important to have the last word in an argument, I think, most of the time. Although, if you don't have the last word and you kill the other guy, you're probably still ahead. Just not as many points ahead as you'd be the other way. So they go to Isaac Newton's grave in England. It's in a church or something, I don't remember. It's huge. Like, I've been to a couple graveyards lately because, we had some people die in our family, and headstones are tiny, comparatively. Isaac Newton's headstone is huge. It's got like carvings and crap on it and stuff, and so they get there, and there's more clues, and Tom Hanks is deciphering the clues in his head because he's a symbologist. He can do that. The rest of us, we need paper, and we have to doodle, and we draw like pictures of birds around the sides, and the girls would draw hearts, little arrows through them, and the guys would draw tanks firing at each other while you're trying to puzzle out the clues on the piece of paper or whatever. But Tom Hanks sees everything in his head, and he's figuring out the clues, and he double crosses Ian McKellen again, and then, just as bad things are about to happen, the French police rush in because they figured out that Tom Hanks actually wasn't the guy that did it, because the cardinal double-crossed the police guy, and the police guy figured it out, so he put everything together in his head. So the French policeman is a Tom Hanks putting things together in his head genius, except with crime instead of symbols. So they come in, and they rush, and they take Magneto away, and I'm like, you better put him in a plexiglass prison, was my last thought. Because if he's not in a plexiglass prison, he'll just get out, I think we all know. So then Tom Hanks and the River is like, well, I don't know, we've lost the trail, we don't know. And then Tom Hanks is like, no, I secreted the clue out back when Ian McKellen thought I destroyed it. And then they read the clue, and they're like, oh, we have to go here. And they go to some church in the middle of nowhere, England. And this whole thing takes place over like a day. Like, it starts at 8 o'clock at night on Friday or something. And it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. I mean, it's like 24 on the Fox, except it's not rigidly, every minute is a minute kind of thing. But you're like, no one has slept yet, and yet they all still look fabulous. Like, if I'm up at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm at a book signing, and I don't go to bed, by 2 o'clock the next afternoon, I look disheveled. Especially if I've been killing people and having people try to kill me. But these people, they're Hollywood actors. They look great, except for the hair. Tom Hanks' hair looked weird. So they go to this church in the middle of nowhere, England, and they're like, oh, look, this clue meant this, blah, blah, blah. And there's the upward and downward pointing arrows, and they go downstairs, and they go to look, a floor. And they open up a secret trap door, and they go down. They're like, this was the headquarters of this Priory of Sion. Look at all the records. And there's like records with like dates, and there's little pictures of all the grandmasters, and like the last picture is the guy that was killed in the curator. And they're like, Sophie, your grandfather wasn't just the Priory of Sion. He wasn't your grandfather. He adopted you when your parents were killed because you're the Holy Grail. And you're like, well, yeah, I knew that like 8 hours ago. Like, I put it together in my head, and I'm not bright. But these people took them this long. So then there's the happy ending, kind of. You know, Sophia stays at the church, I guess, for a little while, and Tom Hanks goes back to France, to Paris, probably to pick up his book tour. Because when you got a book publisher and he sent you on a tour of Europe, he doesn't want to hear that people have been trying to kill you and you've been flying around looking for the secret of the Knights Templar Priory of Sion. They're like, no, we booked you on a flight from Paris to Rome Saturday at 7, and you're going to be on that flight so that you can sign books on Sunday in the Vatican. I bet they don't do book signings on Sunday at the Vatican because you're supposed to rest that day. I bet it'd be on Saturday. So maybe he was supposed to catch a flight Saturday afternoon to the Vatican. It's probably the answer. He's probably already screwed up his Vatican book signing, which is probably why the Vatican hates him, I guess. Anyway, so then Tom Hanks is back in Paris, and then he's still putting clues together in his head because he's a symbologist. That's what they're great at doing, is putting clues together in their head and not being killed while running around with crazy monks and Magneto and everyone else. So he's back in Paris, and he puts all the last clues together. He's like, wait, I know where they buried the body of Mary Magdalene. It's under the Fleur de Rose de whatever line, and it's outside the Louvre Museum, and there's a pyramid that points up and it points down. At the bottom it points up, and then the camera zooms around, and Tom Hanks is reading the little clue in his brain so he can hear him, narrating. He's not saying anything, but, in his head he's speaking it. And the camera zooms around, through the ground, and there's the tomb of Mary Magdalene. The music swells, and then screen goes blank, directed by Ron Howard, and you're like, man, that was a good movie. Wow, I'm late for my TV show. And then I had to rush over here. So really, that's been my day, I guess. Not as exciting as Tom Hanks' day was, but okay. Well, I guess it's going to be next month. We'll talk about something else. I don't know what. I mean, I really won't know what until about 5 o'clock, 4 Thursdays from now, or 5 Thursdays from now, depending on how many days June has. Have a lovely month, everyone, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, so what did I miss? When I got here, someone else was in my chair, is my point, okay? Now this is